Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a beautiful Thursday morning.
That's right.
It will soon be a long weekend, as we were just talking about.
Just in case anybody didn't know. Who would forget that, right?
I know, right? So just in case you did forget, try to get something going.
That's right. It is an extended weekend coming up, and but we're not there yet. We still got to get through today and tomorrow. And, Gavin, we were talking before the break of the vaccination, before we started, actually, with the vaccination rollout and how that's been going. The recent cluster yesterday, the new cases, I think there were about 8 that were reported, and I feel like we're cautiously watching for the next few weeks. As we know, there was the cases that were identified in Princess Casino, and then the ones in the schools as well.
Yes, absolutely, and we've been seeing clusters, as Marlene said, sort of pop up, and the ministry has been advising that they've been monitoring the situation closely and performing the necessary contact tracing. Yeah. But of course, because of the nature of these two different, I guess I can call them types of clusters, because there's 2 at schools, and also there were a number of cases coming out of the Princess Casino, and that was involving over 20 staff who tested positive for COVID-19, hence the temporary closure of the casino. But of course it is worrying because of the potential that it has to grow exponentially. Both of those situations are areas or are places in which there tend to be a larger number of people gathered. So the concern is, of course, that it's going to spread and that we might, worst case scenario, see another spike or another wave.
Yeah. And so we do want to remind everyone that, if you are eligible, I think it's phase 1, 2, and 3 that's currently getting vaccinated. If you fall within those phases, then go out and get vaccinated. A lot of people are moving now to their second vaccination. I think we have just shy of 10,000 people who've had both doses of the AstraZeneca. And in total, I think over 50,000, maybe about 56,000 have received a vaccine so far. So we're getting there slowly but surely, but we do hope that people are taking advantage of the opportunity to get vaccinated so that you can be protected. And this is not protected from COVID. Actually, we're going to be talking about that today during the show. It's protected from the severe form of COVID.
Yes, absolutely, and that has been a unanimous message from the medical community across the world. No matter what type of vaccine that you get, whether it's Pfizer, whether it is Sinopharm, whether it is AstraZeneca, we have been hearing a lot about the percentages of effectiveness, and we've had several doctors on the show, and also if you follow international news, say that the effectiveness is somewhat relevant when it comes to your likelihood of catching or
getting severe symptoms.
From catching COVID in the first place, but regardless of the vaccine you take, if you do get COVID-19, then the likelihood that you're going to get a serious case is extremely, extremely low. So that's why both the medical community and us have been encouraging people to get their vaccinations.
Absolutely. So do keep that in mind. And as you move about, today actually is the start of the extension on the curfew. The Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, the curfew shifts to midnight. So tonight, you don't have to be at home until midnight. But do remember that everything else is still in place. You are still expected to social distance. You are still expected to wear your mask. And we do hope, of course, that you're washing your hands or cleaning your hands as much as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's get moving into some motivation for this morning. Right?
Yep.
It's time for our eye opener. And our eye opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Practicing humility is important. While you may have a greater understanding in some areas, others will always be able to teach you something. The notion of humility as a virtue brings numerous images to mind. We tend to envision those rare individuals who humbly bear life's struggles while downplaying their own strengths. Yet, humility is also associated with people whose insecurities compel them to judge themselves unfavorably as a matter of course. The true definition of humility, however, does not correspond precisely with either of these images. Humility is not passivity. Rather, it is an utter lack of self-importance. When you practice humility, you want to become as accomplished and evolved as you can possibly be. Yet you are willing to submit to the expertise of others to do so. You understand the scope of your aptitudes, yet you choose to eradicate arrogance from your attitude, and you can distinguish the value you possess as an individual while still acting in the interests of your fellow human beings. Humility, simply put, is a form of balance in which you can celebrate your own worth while sincerely believing that every other person on the planet is just as worthy as you.
That's a great eye-opener.
Yeah.
And I like the reference or the description to humility as a virtue, because I think that it's one of the traits that I really do admire most in people when I see it. And I think that one of the other things to keep in mind is something that the eye-opener said towards the beginning, when it said that humility can be associated with sometimes with people who judge themselves too harshly. And we've probably all been in that situation sometimes. And definitely you want to always have an open mind, and you will always want to think in a humble way, but you don't want to push to that line where it just becomes overly critical, because then it pushes it to the other extreme that you don't want to go.
Then it becomes more of a self-confidence issue than it is humility.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, the close is really what seals it. You know, that's just the message I want to walk away with. It's just remembering that every single person has worth and something to contribute. And I think, you know, once you have that, you know that you're encountering someone that you always have the possibility of learning from, that you always have the possibility of expanding your perceptions if you take the time to get to know them. So I think when you think of humility, that's a powerful way to be able to consider it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, we all have experiences where no matter how much experience you think you have, or, you know, how smart you think you are, there's something that comes in the way, there's something that happens, and then it really, you know, sort of humbles you.
Yeah. All right, well, that is our eye opener for this morning, and now we're going to get moving into our weather update.
Yep. And we are joined by our forecaster on the line. We've got Francisca Wellington this morning to give us our update. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Oh, we're doing good. Hopefully going to get some good news with this weather.
Good, and good.
All right, great. So let's get into the general situation.
Okay, it's good because we are seeing an increase in moisture and instability over area. And that's good because it's very hot, right? We need to cool down.
True.
Oh, that's a nice spin.
Right.
That's right, though. And you know I always prefer rain on the weekend.
Yay, okay. Okay, so we'll be seeing some cloudy spells this morning. For most of this morning, we'll be seeing isolated showers. Then later this afternoon, we'll see an increase in rainfall, especially over the south. So we're seeing a few showers and isolated storms mainly over the south this afternoon, and then we're seeing a further increase later tonight, especially over the south. And let me say, I think it was mentioned before that we could see some flooding from these increases later tonight.
It's that much rainfall that's coming.
That's what the indication are.
Okay. What's affecting the weather?
Okay, it's an increase in moisture. We have an easterly flow, and it's bringing in moisture. And we also have a upper level feature that will enhance the instability and the shower activity.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So let's get into the temperatures, I guess.
Okay, let me just mention before the winds, we have an easterly flow, 10 to 20 knots, and that's going to produce moderate to rough seas. So we have a small cross caution in effect.
Okay.
All right. As for the temperatures, not too bad today. 86 along the coast, 91 inland, 82 up in the Maya Mountains. And then overnight temperatures, 78 along the coast, 74 inland, 68 up in the Maya Mountains.
Okay.
And our outlook as we head into Friday?
Okay, for Friday, we'll continue to see some showers and thunderstorms over the south. And later on in the night, we'll see a slight decrease. But for the most part, the weekend, we'll continue to see a few showers around the country.
Okay.
Are these going to be severe thunderstorms as they break up the heat?
Say that again, please?
Are they going to be severe thunderstorms as they break up the heat?
It's quite possible, quite possible. So we'll keep an eye on that and update the public as we go along.
All right. Well, Francisca, thank you so much for that update.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, and same to you guys.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you have it. We got some rains coming in.
Yep.
Don't look too disappointed, Gavin.
I know, because, as we started, we were talking about the long weekend, but, I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah, and you know what? Some cloud cover and a bit of showers here or there is going to keep things comfortable.
Yeah, that's true, and it is good, especially for the people inland, because, those temperatures have not been low recently.
That's right. So that's our weather update for today. But a key point there is that the predictions are that the bulk of the rainfall will be in the south, and there is a possibility of flooding. So please keep that in mind. And if you're going to be heading out on the road later on today, or you have a scheduled trip tomorrow, keep that in mind as well, so that you can plan for some extra time to take it easy on the road. All right. So with that, we're going to get moving into our show for today. And our first conversation.
We are going to be getting an update from the Minister of Education, who's going to be talking all about what's happening in schools and, of course, some of the other concerns coming out of his ministry.
Okay. Now, we mentioned it a bit earlier, but the second part of our conversation, we're going to be talking about the protection that we get from vaccinations. So we have the manager of the expanded program of immunizations, Nurse Lilia Middleton, who's going to break it down for us. How protected are you after the first dose? How protected are you after the second dose? And what type of protection are we getting from these vaccinations? We're going to get the details in the second part of the show.
And finally, the hurricane season is less than 2 weeks away, so we are going to get a very timely update on how to be prepared in the event of a hurricane or similar natural disaster. So we're going to get an update all from the Red Cross about that as our final conversation for this morning. But we are going to be taking a short break soon. But before we do have a birthday shout out to give. So from all of us here at Open Your Eyes and Channel 5, we want to wish a very, very, very happy birthday to Aaron Pook. So Aaron, we hope you have a great day. Happy birthday, and we wish you many more. But with that said, we are going to be taking a break, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by the Minister of Education, Culture, Science, and Technology. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
In these challenging times, The one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Es un hecho. Únicamente con Smart obtienes todo realmente ilimitado. Solo con Smart obtienes datos ilimitados en cualquier momento. Mientras que con el otro proveedor solo son datos dobles los fines de semana. Con datos ilimitados todos los días no hay necesidad de esperar, así que es un hecho que nuestros planes ilimitados superan a la competencia. Por lo tanto, no permita que le digan cómo y cuándo usar sus datos y obtenga llamadas, mensajes de texto y datos ilimitados. Vive la verdadera experiencia de planes ilimitados con Smart. Es un hecho. Haga el cambio y viva Smart.
Why, Tony?
Boy, kid, what you going on, man?
But actually, because see, we can need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups for my grocery shop because they run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just ran out to the last batch, must have been like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have anything? What you going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
And we are back. And if you're joining us now, we are just starting our first conversation. As we said before, we are now joined by the Honorable Francis Fonseca, the Minister of Education, Culture, Science and Technology. Good morning, Minister.
Hi, good morning. Gavin. Good morning, Marlene. Good morning to your faithful viewers on Open Your Eyes.
Well, Minister, thank you very much for joining us. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to come and give us an update. Of course, there's a lot to talk about. And of course, what is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds are the incidents at two primary schools in Belize City where there were positive cases of COVID-19. Of course, that was a big concern for everybody with the phased reopening of schools. So why don't we jump into that topic and talk about sort of what happened?
Yeah, sure, Gavin. Happy to do that. Well, first of all, I think we need to place this in context for the benefit of the public, and in particular our families and our parents and students. We have 352 schools that have been given the green light for reopening for face-to-face instruction. And that has been done over the past 2 months. The last reopening green light set of schools was on May 10th. That was very recent. initially we had 55 schools, I think about a month or 6 weeks before. And so what we're talking about is 2 cases in Belize City, 2 schools in Belize City out of all of these 352 schools. So it's important to have context. And you're right, we have to be concerned about every case. But in the case of these 2 schools, first, the Queen Square Anglican Primary School in Belize City, as you rightly pointed out, there was a teacher at that school that tested positive. That teacher has been placed in isolation. Other teachers have been tested. Students who in that classroom, that teacher's classroom, have been tested. Any other persons that teacher came into contact with at the school have been tested. To date, all of those tests have returned negative results. Some of them have been rapid tests. As far as I'm aware, I think some PCR tests are being done as well. The results of those are not yet known. This case is directly linked to the outbreak that we had last weekend over at the Princess Hotel. The teacher has a relative that works there. So that is the information regarding Queen Square Anglican Primary School. In terms of Wesley Lower Primary School, there were 4 cases reported and 4 students who tested positive, ranging in ages from 12 to 7. Again, all of those students have individuals in their households who are linked to Princess Casino outbreak. Either parents who work there or some other relative in the household who works there. Again, those students have been tested. Those students have been isolated. Their classmates have been tested. Teachers have been tested. To date, all of them have returned negative tests, which is good news. The teachers, as I said, it's all linked. It goes back to the Princess Hotel outbreak. And what's important is that the Ministry of Education continues to have in place a very strict procedure, protocols for these types of matters. We anticipated that with the reopening of schools for face-to-face instruction, that there would be these incidents that would arise. What's important is ensuring that we have in place strict protocols and procedures and regulations to ensure that when they arise, we're able to deal with them quickly and properly. So I believe that that should reassure our families and our citizens. In terms of the students, I think the 7-year-old is the only one who has exhibited some mild symptoms. The other students are asymptomatic, which is good news. So again, it's important. The bigger message is it's important for our people to get vaccinated. That will help us in this fight. And in terms of schools, we are satisfied that our schools remain safe. We have to do this, as we have always said, in a safe, responsible way. We are collaborating very closely with the Ministry of Health. All of the schools have isolation rooms. We have a notification system that is in place. What we are appealing to the public, and in particular to parents and students, is that whenever you have any member of your household that is exhibiting any signs of any symptoms that could be COVID related in any way, err on the side of caution. That is what we have asked from the very beginning. Keep your children at home. Stay at home. We ask the students to stay at home in those cases. Let us be safe. So that is something we have to continue to do. We have to continue to stress and emphasize that very important message.
throughout the course of this pandemic, we've picked up a few things, I think, from the health sector. One, that the next 2 weeks are critical to watch the numbers to see the extent of the spread. Yesterday, the Ministry of Education sent out a reminder to schools to issue protocols. But is it perhaps a time to be a bit more realistic about expectations within schools? We see within society, from the top leaders in government to adults to healthcare workers who managed to get COVID, and children are very unlikely to stay separated within a school system, no matter how hard the teachers try.
Yeah, no, I think we've always been realistic about how we approach the reopening of schools, Martin. I think that's absolutely essential. You're absolutely right. And we've always said there will be challenges, but the point we made, and I certainly emphasized, was that we can't wait for perfect conditions. I think all of us accept that COVID-19 in some form or the other is going to be a part of our lives for many, many months to come. In fact, perhaps a year or more to come. So we can't shut down, we can't close down. We have to find a way to manage it and to live with it in a responsible way. And that has always been our objective and our challenge. Okay. That requires all of us. That requires all of us. And again, I emphasize, let's keep this in perspective. Let's keep it in context. We have 352 schools that have been given the green light for reopening. Yeah. Green light. And we are talking about 2 schools in Belize City where those cases are directly linked to a outbreak that took place at the Princess Casino over the weekend. So we have to be vigilant. We have to consistently and continuously monitor the situation. But all of us have to be responsible. This requires collective responsibility. The Ministry of Education is doing its part. We have done our part in terms of putting in place the structures and the protocols and the regulations in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. The schools have done their part. The schools, the principals, the administrators, the teachers, as you know, they have done a tremendous job of getting their schools prepared, those that are ready for reopening. Yeah.
What's the update? Sorry.
But the public, the families have a responsibility as well. We have a responsibility. And this goes beyond education, of course. If we're going to reopen the country, if we're going to reopen the economy, we have a collective responsibility to do what is right, to follow the protocols, and to ensure that as much as possible, we mitigate the risk of catching COVID.
What's the vaccination coverage? Sorry, what's the vaccination coverage for teachers at this time?
Yeah, the last report I got, I think Tuesday in Cabinet, the Minister of Health said it was about 52%, 52% coverage. Obviously, that's not where we want to be, but I think we should appreciate that just in the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've had a 20% jump. About 5 weeks ago, it was around 30%. So it's now up to 52%. So obviously, we would want everybody, all of our teachers to get vaccinated. Yes. We think that's in their interest. That's in the interest of their students. And that's in the interest of our school communities. So we hope that, between now and September, we can get that figure up to, I hope over 80%, 70, 80%. As you know, it's not a requirement for teachers to be vaccinated for them to return to the classroom. But certainly, it is something that both the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health are strongly advising.
Of course, of course. Minister, let's move into another matter. There are other issues I want to talk about with the reopening of school, but let's address the elephant in the room, and that is the ongoing strike between government and the unions. You are a part of the government's team that sat at the table with the unions in trying to hammer out a deal. Today, the strike continues. We are told very clearly by the unions that they are not satisfied with what's being offered, and a key factor, according to union leaders, is that they feel that there were last-minute changes made at the time when the Prime Minister made his announcement last Thursday. They also say that they have taken notes at the meetings that they've had with the negotiating team, so they can be able to say that there was a change in direction by the time the Prime Minister presented what he calls his last best effort. How do you respond to that?
I don't accept that at all, Marlene. I think we have absolutely acted in good faith at all times. And we've been very consistent in our message to the joint unions. We, of course, represent the Prime Minister, we represent the Cabinet, so we act on the instructions of the Cabinet at all times. I think what has to be very clear to the Belizean people is that the government, as you know, we've talked about this in the past, the government in their March 30th, in our March 30th letter to the joint unions, set out 15 specific proposals for responding to the salary cut. 15 specific proposals that government viewed as a form of a sort of compensation package, if you like, but a response to the 10% salary cut. The unions took that back to their membership. They came back to us. Many of those things are included in the letter of undertaking. And they said their position remains that their membership want their 10% back. They are not prepared to accept the 10% salary cut. That has been the union's position consistently. That has not changed. There was then a discussion following that. There was a discussion about formulating some sort of specific compensation package.
Yes.
The unions did raise the issue of a promissory note, but immediately we indicated to them that that was a non-starter for the government. The Cabinet had made it very clear to us, the Prime Minister had made it very, very clear to us that that could not be something that the government could offer, because that would add to the debt. It would derail our ongoing discussions and negotiations with the bondholders. It would derail that process, which is critically important to the success of our economic recovery. As well, you know, it would, in effect, have us lose credibility in terms of our ongoing discussions with the international financial institutions to get financial support for that homegrown economic recovery plan that we have in place. So we made that very clear to them. So that led then to the union saying to us, well, how about some letter of commitment, not a promissory note. In fact, they made it very clear, listen, we understand after that discussion that you cannot offer us a promissory note. But how about some letter of commitment saying that down the road, in a few years, whether it be 3 years or 4 years, that the government would be prepared to do that. We then undertook as a negotiating team to take that back to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. And it is out of that that the Prime Minister and the Cabinet came up with the proposal of a performance bonus option, which we felt achieved the same objective. And that performance bonus option is exactly that, trying to find a way to compensate the public officers and teachers who are directly affected by the 10% salary cut on an annual basis. So we have targets in the budget. So for this year, for example, we have a target of minus 2.9 deficit for the in terms of our primary deficit target. Yes. If we said to the unions in this performance bonus option, if we overperform on that target, for example, if the deficit is only 1.9%, yes. Then that would yield something like $35 million. And that $35 million would then be allocated to the teachers and public officers affected by the salary cut. on a pro rata basis. And that we would do that up to the amount of $60 million would be the ceiling on that overperformance, if you like. And we would do that every year as long as the cut remained in place. So that was, you know, the government's best offer that we could make, because that represents an opportunity for all of us to work together, to have a vested interest in working together to achieve economic growth, so that when we have that overperformance, which we believe is completely possible, then that is shared directly, immediately in that year. We said within 90 days of the end of the fiscal year that those monies would be shared as a bonus payment to all public officers and teachers. And very importantly, we put in place an important structure, which is the Social Partnership Committee, which would include the National Trade Union Congress of Belize, the joint unions, the churches, civil society, private sector, everybody in this Social Partnership Committee. We created that structure to allow for an ongoing discussion about the state of public finances in our country. So that together we have a vested interest in making sure that Belize recovers strongly and quickly. And that would allow us together to sit, you know, on a biannual basis, every 6 months, sit together and provide information on an ongoing basis about the state of public finances and discuss what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, how can we help to improve our approach to the economic recovery of our country. We felt that was absolutely fair, absolutely reasonable, and it is in that committee that we would have an opportunity to say, listen, if we're recovering, the recovery is stronger and quicker than we expected, then we can have a discussion about saying this thing should only last 1 year. Or, you know, if we're recovering strongly, then we can have a discussion about promissory notes down the road. But it would be reckless and irresponsible of the government to make that decision to say, oh, we're going to issue promissory notes now, when we do not know the future state of the economy, and we are currently in an economic crisis and trying to negotiate with the IFIs and with the bondholders.
I don't want us to go too far down the road of recommendations without addressing the performance bonus, because we have heard responses directly from the union leaders. And, you know, you have said previously that you recognize that a core issue here is trust. And that's trust between the unions and any government administration at this point in time. And the expectation or the current proposal for a performance bonus is based on projections being made by government in a time where there is absolutely no certainty. We don't know when the pandemic will end. We don't know when tourism will rebound. We don't know, you know, what this agricultural season will fare off. We don't know what industries will come in. And a crucial point, going back to the issue of trust, they have not had enough experience in working with the administration to know how, you know, financially smart you will be in your spending moving forward. So it still boils back to creating an expectation that you'll be able to have a surplus at a time where there is no trust in the government system.
Yeah, but you're making my point for me, Marlene. You're making my point. You are saying, you're describing exactly the situation we're in, where we're faced with absolute uncertainty about the economic recovery of our country. How could a government sitting today in Belmopan make a determination that we're going to make payments in 2 years' time or 3 years' time? And that would be politically easy and perhaps politically beneficial to us. We could end this today and say, oh yes, here's your promissory note. But that would be reckless and irresponsible. And it would not be in good faith with the citizens of this country. People say they want change, they say they want reform. This government is trying to deliver it. And we're doing so in absolute good faith. The performance bonus option does exactly what you are suggesting should be done. Builds trust. That is how you build trust. Social partnership committee. Everyone sits at the table. We work together around the table. We are seeing the figures. We are sharing information. We are discussing ideas. That is how we build trust. Nobody expects anybody to walk through the door and have trust on day one. It has to be built. So we believe that this is the right process, the right structure, the right vehicle for us to build that trust working together. The unions will be around the table. As I said, all of the other stakeholders, key stakeholders in development will be there. Let's work together. Let's give this an opportunity to work.
And of course, that does bring up a second aspect of the ongoing negotiations, which is, you know, as much as we've been talking about the economic considerations, one of the points that from the union side that they have been saying is that another reason, or perhaps what would make them build more trust or have more faith in the government moving forward, is the deliverance of the good governance legislation, which they have been talking about. How, or what is the status of the negotiations in relation to that aspect of the union protest?
Well, let's be clear. I mean, that's never been a subject for negotiation. People's United Party government got elected with a mandate for good governance. And we have made it very clear from day one that we are absolutely committed to delivering on that mandate. So, listen, the unions have talked about good governance. I mean, for the last 13 years, they've been talking about good governance. And we have, in the first 6 months, we have given to them very specific pieces of legislation. First 6 months in office, after all sorts of talks and promise and promise and promise for 13 years, we have delivered to them specific legislation. The Protected Disclosures Bill, which captures the entire issue of whistleblowers, that has been delivered to the unions. The Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Bill, delivered to the unions. Again, this with specific time frames for implementation. We have agreed to that with the unions already. Campaign finance reform, they have shared with us draft legislation. We have gotten some legislation from the Chamber of Commerce. We have delivered those to the Attorney General's ministry. The Attorney General will, as we agreed with the unions, will prepare draft legislation by the end of August. So all of those things we have agreed to. So nobody should be out there protesting about good governance. We have agreed with the unions around the table that there is a specific structure and timeline in place for the implementation of all of these important bills, which were absolutely ignored for 13 years. And in 6 months, this PUP administration has delivered those bills to demonstrate our absolute commitment to good governance. So it is, you know, I think it's disingenuous for anybody to be out there talking about good governance when in fact we have already agreed. We have agreed on a structure and a timeline for the implementation of those specific bills which the unions identified as priority items for them and which we agreed were critically important.
And that disagreement had more to do with the timeline than the drafts itself. And we do note that the drafts for the good governance and the civil assets recovery, the whistleblower and the civil assets recovery have been passed on to the unions. But you know, let's bring this back and put it into perspective. Minister Fonseca, this is not your first rodeo. You've been Minister of Education before. There are always times where the unions are in disagreement with a decision and they may, put forward their concerns. But this is the longest strike we have seen from the teachers in our history. And they are being very firm in their position. My question is for you, as the Minister of Education, with the experience that you've had, I think you mentioned earlier that kind of the makeup of the unions itself. The union leaders sit with you, but they do have thousands of members to go back to, each with an individual concern that must be represented when they negotiate with government. So is there going to be a subsequent meeting between government and the unions to finally hammer out something that would work for both parties? Because how the Prime Minister presented the proposal on Thursday seems that that's it.
Yeah, and just like the unions have their membership and their constituencies, or any of the government, we represent 420,000 citizens of this country. So we have a responsibility. We have a great responsibility to our teachers and public officers. They are our partners in government. They are our partners in delivering goods and services to the Belizean people. That is critically important, and we have great respect for that partnership, and we always will. But we have a responsibility as well to all the citizens of this country to do what is right. So in terms of how we move forward, the government has presented its position. As you know, yesterday, I think you all may have received a copy of the letter of clarification, if you like. The unions had asked at the last meeting where we were there to discuss the letter of undertakings for certain clarifications. And so the Prime Minister wrote to them, I think, dated yesterday, or maybe the day before, to clarify certain issues. I think they had asked specifically about the 5-hour work week, and that was cleared up, that the reduction that is affirmed, that the 5-hour work week for public officers and teachers is reduced by 5 hours. That has been affirmed. They had asked about the forbearance period. The original letter had said it was limited to residential mortgages. That was an error. They clarified in the Prime Minister's latest letter that it was not limited to residential mortgages. It extended to the entire portfolio and included personal loans as well. And then the issue of an appointment of a representative of the National Trade Union Congress of Belize to the board of the National Bank. And again, the Prime Minister in his letter confirmed and clarified that in fact that was a commitment the government is going to keep and make. So
it also added,
and the unions are, as they have said publicly, are going to respond to those letters. Yeah. So that's where we are. We are awaiting that response.
That clarification letter also issued a reminder to public officers that they would not be paid past May 14th if they continue to strike. Minister, I know your CEO has clarified from very early on that when it comes to teachers, it is the management who makes the decision to decide whether or not a teacher's salary will be withheld. There was a period of time following meetings with government where you had assured the unions that their pay would not be cut for striking. Clearly, that position has changed. But I want to ask you...
No, that position is not. We made it clear that up to May 14th. We made that very clear, Marlon.
You had set a deadline from that point?
May 14th.
Okay.
Right, that May 14th. If the strikes did not continue, then their salaries would not be affected.
Now, I move on to say that in your management, there are government schools. Are you okay with moving forward with cutting teachers' salary at government schools starting as of Monday?
At government schools?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because government is the management of government schools.
Yes. As I said, the cabinet, those are the instructions from the Prime Minister and the cabinet. We have to follow those instructions. So it's not a question of whether we want to do it or like to do it. Those are the instructions from the Ministry of Finance and the cabinet, and we will have to follow those instructions.
Agreed, but my question is to you, Minister of Education, but also area representative for Freetown Division, who canvassed voters to be able to go out and support you. Are you okay with cutting salaries in this current economic time?
We would not want to, Marlene.
I mean, withholding salaries for striking. Let me clarify.
We don't want to cut people's salaries, period. We don't. So we would hope that the unions would recognize, but we have no choice in this matter, Marlene. And in terms of the salaries, listen, that works two ways. If you are striking on principle, then you should be prepared to accept the consequences of acting on principle. I think that applies to all of us. I take no satisfaction in docking anybody's pay, but the Ministry of Education will do so because those are the instructions of the Ministry of Finance and Cabinet, and we take collective responsibility for those decisions. So we take no, believe me, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet takes no comfort in doing that. Absolutely not. But we have a responsibility, as I keep saying, to the citizens of this country. I have a responsibility to the families and parents and students who I hear from every day who want school to continue, who want their children to be able to successfully sit their CXCs and complete their SBAs. I can't allow teachers on strike to disrupt their ability to complete their education. I have a responsibility to them as well. So I represent people, I represent teachers, I represent public officers in Freetown, but I also represent business people, and I represent ordinary citizens who are desperately in search of help and assistance. Yeah. And I think we seem to have lost sight of that big picture, that so many people in this country are hurting and suffering. You know, yesterday we had a board meeting at Niche, where again we have to say to our staff at Niche who have been on 50% salary since May of last year, that has to continue. 50%. I meet people every day in my constituency from Freetown who have been out of work, both spouses out of work since March of last year. No income, not 90%, no income. We have a responsibility to them as well. And the only way we will fix this economy and have an economic recovery is if we have a plan in place and that deals with the fundamental problems that we have been ignoring and kicking down the road for years and years and years. People have talked about this for a long time. Now you have a government that has come along in good faith, prepared to take the tough political decisions, suffer the consequences of those decisions, and people all of a sudden say, oh, as long as it doesn't affect me, go ahead and do what you have to do, as long as it don't affect me. But that's not how it works in a democracy. That's not how it works in a country the size of Belize, where our economy is so vulnerable. Everyone has to take part in when things are not going well. Everyone has to share in that. When things are going well, we have to do a better job of making sure that the wealth is equitable and everyone benefits from that growth and development.
Okay. And just on that point still, has the Ministry of Education communicated with school managements about a potential withholding of salaries from teachers who are not government, working at a government school?
No, we give no instructions to them, obviously. We're not in a position to do that. The education rules are clear, as you pointed out earlier. Managements, of course, reach out to the ministry for all the time, seeking guidance and advice. But as you rightly pointed out, ultimately, that is the decision that they will have to make as managing authorities under the education rules.
Yeah. How do you see this playing out in the next few days, next week?
I really don't know, Marlene. My hope, my sincere hope is that you know, the unions will have will review in a very comprehensive way the letter of undertakings, the new letter of clarification, and I hope they have a real sincere, heart-to-heart, frank, open, transparent conversation and discussion with their membership. you know, I've made this point before, and I'm not, you know, not trying to be romantic about it, but or philosophical about it. But leadership is you know, is not just about leading in good times and you know, and having people clap for you and cheer for you and patting you on the back. It's also about saying to your people in a very frank and open and honest way, this is the reality. This is the harsh reality of where we are, and guiding them to the right place that ultimately will serve their interests and the national interest. That is critically important, and we need more. We need more of that. So, you know, we certainly hope. I certainly hope, and I pray every day that we can find some common ground. We believe that we have done everything we can. The cabinet has made it clear that this is our last best offer. We have clarified that offer to make the joint unions, to assure them of our commitment in other areas that they were concerned about. And we certainly hope that they can understand and appreciate that the best way forward is for us to work together through this social partnership committee, and have in place a structure to achieve the objectives that they want to achieve in terms of compensation. I believe that is achievable, but that will depend on our economic recovery. And the best way for us to have economic recovery quickly is for us to sit together, to work together, to plan together. And I think we can do that. We can do that together. And at the end of the day, ensure that our teachers and public officers get properly compensated for whatever sacrifices they have been asked to make.
Now I know that's the most pertinent issue today, being able to work out a resolution there. But I do want to take some time to talk about education moving forward. And we are looking at the reopening of schools, God willing, no outbreak, by September or August, that the children will return to the classrooms. There are many concerns from all fronts, from teachers, from parents, that what is the new classroom going to look like? What is the new education system going to look like when we will still most likely be in a pandemic? Catching up on studies, kind of getting everyone up to par. Some children have been able to get extra help. Some children have had no help. What is the current planning phase that you're in to be able to remedy all of this?
Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge, Marlene. You're absolutely right. Education will never look the same. We have to accept that fact and that reality moving forward. And so that's an ongoing plan.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about phases. It's one big phase in fact. Obviously, we're dealing with we're in the phase of trying to return to the classroom for face-to-face instruction in terms of in limited capacities across the country, depending on where we are. We always have to be guided by our public health officials. That remains, you know, a North Star for us. We will never put our teachers and students' safety at risk. So that is critically important. But moving forward, it will be about technology, and that's why it was important for us to have science and technology as a part of our ministry, because we understood coming into government that would be the way forward in terms of education. How can we use technology effectively and efficiently to deliver quality education to our students wherever they live in this country? Obviously, it's, you know, there's no substitute for face-to-face instruction and for the absolute advantage and benefit of being in a classroom with your peers and you know, being able to interact with your teachers, and you know, that's always a beautiful experience from which you grow and develop as a human being.
Yeah.
So there's no substitute for that. And that will always be the foundation of our education system.
You know,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, as we showed the images of high school students, you know, across the Caribbean, the conversation about the CXCs in Cape exams is one that is very robust. You know, are we fooling ourselves moving forward with these types of standardized exams? How, even in a year's time, do you ensure that everyone is able to be at the same place in their learning to be able to take these types of exams moving forward? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I start from a bigger conversation I want to have. You know, having been tied up in these consultations with the unions has diverted my attention from some of these big policy discussions that I would have loved to be having. I really want us as a country to have an education community to have a frank, honest discussion about the value of these exams, first of all. And how are we benefiting from them? How are our students benefiting from them? Are they truly a reflection of where we are in terms of our education standards? PSC, the same conversation we have to have. What is the value of the primary school examination moving forward? Are we benefiting from it? Let's have a frank, I have my views, but I certainly will not impose my views on the education system. Mm-hmm. You have to have a frank discussion, consultative process that leads to consensus. But what are the merits of these exams? What are they doing for our students? What are the benefits to our students and to our education system and to our country? But in terms of preparation for these exams moving forward, you're right, there's a lot of uncertainty. I've sat in a number of meetings with ministers, my colleague, ministers of education from the Caribbean and from Central America, where we're looking at all sorts of different regional protocols and procedures and regulations and standards that have been put in place. And you're right, CXC, there's a big discussion, a big debate, going on in CARICOM about CXC and whether or not our students should be sitting that exam this year. CXC has made the decision to go ahead, and that has been supported by the CARICOM ministers of education so far. But we put in place specific policies to try to ensure that our students are getting access to the right information, that the exams are properly streamlined. SBAs are a big part of it. So it's an ongoing challenge, Maureen, but it's a conversation we need to continue to have.
Is government still going to pay for CXC exams this year? I know, is it 6 exams that they pay for each student?
Yeah, we know last year that was reduced to 3, and we maintained it at that level. So last year, 3, anyone sitting 3 exams, government would pay for 3. Maths, English, and science, I believe, as long as it included math, English, and science. Was put in place last year. We put out a release about that earlier this year, and that remains the position this year.
Was there a review as to how students performed last year and how many showed up to take the exam to see if it was still worthwhile to cover the cost this year?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a drop in the number of students. Last year there was a drop, and this year, again, a drop in the number of students. I think it used to average around 3,000 something. This year it's around 2,600 students that have signed up. I think the assessment is ongoing, but based on what I have seen, clearly, performance has not been up to standard. And it's obvious that students have been impacted by being out of the classroom and not having access to face-to-face instruction and face time with their instructors, their teachers. That has clearly impacted their capacity to sit these exams. But we believe we have a duty and obligation to give those students who really want to do it an opportunity to do so. And so government made the decision that we would, just as was done last year by the previous administration, we would continue at this reduced level of support, which we're able to do. So that's the position.
All right. Closing thoughts, Minister, as we wrap up our conversation this morning?
No. Thank you very much, Marlene and Gavin. I just simply want to use the opportunity to assure again our families or communities or parents or students or teachers that the Ministry of Education remains engaged to ensure that our schools remain safe and healthy. We all have to ensure that we follow the protocols and procedures and regulations in place. And so again, we appeal to our families, we appeal to our students, their parents. If any of your students, anyone in your household exhibits any signs of any symptoms related to COVID, please err on the side of caution. Please do the right and responsible thing and stay at home. Keep your children at home. All of us have a collective responsibility to ensure the safety of our schools. So thank you very much for the opportunity this morning.
Well, Minister, thank you as well. We definitely appreciate the time to come in. So with that said, please stay safe, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, we are going to be taking a very short break, and when we come back, we are going to be speaking about vaccines. So please stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your Social Security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity. Is your name a common one? Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Fingerprint recognition coming soon. Social Security at your fingertips.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Hello Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we're just getting our second conversation for this morning started. And as we said before the break, we are talking all about the vaccines. And joining us for this very important conversation, we have Nurse Lilia Middleton, who is the manager of the expanded program of immunizations. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for joining us. This is, of course, a very important topic as we are still in the midst of the pandemic. But we're lucky enough to have a vaccine for COVID-19. So why don't we start talking about sort of what a vaccine or what this vaccine does? Because there's still some uncertainty or a bit of skepticism among people.
Okay, the COVID vaccine protects against the coronavirus. And what it does, it prevents persons from getting infected, it prevents persons from being hospitalized, and most of all, it prevents deaths from people dying with the disease.
Mm-hmm. So you may still, you are less likely to catch COVID once you're vaccinated, but if you do, you probably won't get very sick.
Yes, that's the truth, that if you get COVID while you're vaccinated, you might get it with a slighter incidence than if you are not vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you can even die if you get COVID.
Of course, yeah.
And of course, most people in Belize are receiving their doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. And that, of course, is a completely safe and tested vaccine as well, correct?
Yes, it is.
What
and
is?
We are also vaccinating now with the Sinopharm vaccine. We started that 2 days ago.
Yeah. Let's talk about the effectiveness of the two vaccines that we do have in country. We'll start with AstraZeneca.
Okay. AstraZeneca is 63 to 70% effective, and the Sinopharm is 79% effective.
What's the difference between these two vaccines?
The difference is that one of the, both vaccines, they do the same thing. They protect against the coronavirus, and then it prevents hospitalization. It prevents the person from getting really, really ill, and it prevents death in a person. And the difference is that, both of them, you have to get 2 doses for you to be completely vaccinated with these immunizations.
So that, of course, brings up a pretty big question that a lot of people have had, is that what is your level of vaccination after the first dose, or how protected are you?
We would say that you're 50% protected with the first dose. So you need to get the second dose that you are fully vaccinated. And when you get the both doses, then you're less at risk of getting the disease, and you're more able to protect others, because you will, for those persons that are most vulnerable, those that are at higher risk, they will be protected with you getting 2 doses of vaccine.
Yeah. Now, it's one of those situations. There's a 2 to 3 month wait between the first and second vaccine. Can you still, when we saw this outbreak at the casino, I think one of the first questions people had, they had their first shot. How'd they get it? How do you explain that?
Okay. The interval is 8 to 12 weeks with the vaccine. And once you get the vaccine, you are, as I said, you're 50% covered. You're not fully covered. And sometimes some people think that, okay, I started the vaccine, I don't have to take my precautionary measures, such as using my face mask, covering my mouth and my nose properly, washing my hands, not socializing as much, and not being in crowds, and keeping my 6 feet distance. So people start to lax in their preventative measures, but we cannot do that. We have to still continue the preventative measures that we are taking. And we also have to get others to take their vaccine. No vaccine is fully protects you against an infection, but what it does, it saves lives.
Yeah. And what about if I'm in a household and I have 1 vaccine and you have 2? I mean, when we pay attention to international news and we see the CDC making recommendations of no masks, sometimes we think that applies to us here, but what is the advice as to what we need to do to stay safe?
We need to get both our vaccines. We need to continue our precautionary measures, and we need to continue spreading the word, having people know that it's okay to get your vaccine. It's okay for you to continue with the precautionary measures, even though we are seeing that out in the US, they're advising that you do not need to use your mask once you're outside. We still have to take those precautions here in Belize. Our local context is different from the USA, so we have to look at those measures that need to be continued.
Now, after you receive the second vaccine, it's not an immediate protection. There's a bit of time that you have to wait before it is actually effective. Do you want to explain that?
You wait at least 2 weeks so that the immune response response get better. So You take your first dose, and then you wait 8 to 12 weeks, and then once you get the second dose, it's 2 weeks after that you're fully vaccinated. But we also remember that once you get your 2 doses, that sometimes there's that window, and you call that the vaccine breakthrough cases, that some people can still get infected if they get their 2 doses of vaccine.
But you are still saying that even if you are fully vaccinated and you contract COVID, the fact that you have the vaccine means that your chances of getting a very serious case or dying are very low.
Yes, it's very low. So what we encourage that people get their vaccine, their 2 doses, as soon as they can.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other things to mention is that people who have contracted COVID-19 and survived through it, the Ministry of Health was advising persons like that to wait a few months after before they receive their first dose, correct?
Yes, the ministry is advising that they wait at least 4 to 6 months to get their vaccine, because then the 2 doses that we get will provide the best immunity, but those persons are already have natural immunity to the disease. So you could say they are a bit protected with the natural immunity. So those that haven't gotten their injection, they need to get protected. So if let's say I had COVID, so I waited my 6 months to get my vaccine because my immunity was already there because I got the infection. So those that haven't gotten the infection, they are more at risk for getting the severe disease and for ending up in a hospital bed and end up maybe even dying. So those persons that have had COVID, they are already immune to the disease, so they are protected.
Yes. And so how can people find out where to get their vaccinations?
Okay. Vaccines are given we have fixed sites for vaccination at the health centers, and we're even doing some mobile clinics. So at each district level, each manager, because we have the manager of the vaccination program at each level, and they're the persons that decide, okay, where are we vaccinating today? So in Belmopan, they vaccinate at the Civic Center. And that vaccination is from Tuesdays to Friday, and sometimes they even work on Saturdays. In Belize City, they have different sites. In Belize City, they have like the Central Health Region.
Okay.
They have Ladyville Health Center, Hattieville Health Center, the Polyclinic in San Pedro, Swift Hall in Belize City, and the other districts, they either vaccinate at the health center, or they use other sites which are more comfortable and which have more space for persons that are getting the vaccine.
Yeah. Now, Nurse Middleton, if I'm fully vaccinated, and let's say I do come in contact with COVID, there is a small chance that I can get it and not feel anything. Am I still passing it on to other people?
Yes, even though you are asymptomatic, you can pass the infection to someone else if you're not taking your precautions. If you're walking about without a mask, and remember it's an infection that can be transmitted while you're talking, while you're singing, sneezing, and then that virus is right there circulating. So another person comes into that room and they inhale that virus, it gets into the nose, go into the lungs, and then it affects that person also. And we have to look when we look at COVID, it does not only affect the lung, it is a systemic disease, and it affects all other organs in our body. It affects our heart, our brain, our kidneys, and all different major organs in our body. So it does not only affect the lungs. So we have to look at COVID as a very serious infection.
Of course. And the impact on children, the recent cases that were detected, one child at least is exhibiting mild symptoms. It is possible for children to get severe COVID as well.
Yes, it is. And we have to look at the children, even though a lot of children are not getting infected, but it can be serious if a child gets the infection. It depends on their immune system, how their immune system work, and we have to look at the contact tracing. Those persons that have COVID, those that are not showing signs and symptoms, and even those persons that are symptomatic, how these persons can infect others, and those persons living in the same environment can get infected. Even though you're a child, you can get infected with the disease. And we wouldn't want children to be getting infected, because we have to look at the vaccine rate, that vaccines are only being given right now to adults 18 years and over, and we do not have any vaccine for children at the moment.
Okay. All right, what's your advice to people? We have a little less than 10,000 people who are currently fully protected. So that means that we must also be very cautious. What do you say to the public about maintaining all the protocols as we move forward?
What I would like to say to the public is, get your vaccine when it's your turn. Maintain all the recommendations that the Ministry of Health has put out. As I said before, wearing your mask properly, maintaining your social distance, washing your hands properly, and getting others to get their vaccine, advising people that the virus is here with us and it's transmitted from person to person, and it's not going away right now. We were all excited about the new year that was coming in 2021. A lot of us thought that, okay, 2020 is going, so the virus is going with 2020. But we have seen that is not true. And we have seen that a lot of people in other countries are dying daily with the virus. And we do not want that to happen in our country. We are a small country, and if our population starts dying out, then we'll be in big trouble.
Right.
So we're talking about get your vaccine when it's your turn.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for reminding us about the effectiveness of the vaccines and how important it is that we still continue with wearing the mask, watching the distance, and washing our hands as we move forward. Thank you, Nurse Middleton, and continue to stay safe.
Thank you too, and you too, be safe.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Voltex Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Voltex Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Voltex Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Es un hecho. Únicamente con Smart obtienes todo realmente ilimitado. Solo con Smart obtienes datos ilimitados en cualquier momento. Mientras que con el otro proveedor solo son datos dobles los fines de semana. Con datos ilimitados todos los días no hay necesidad de esperar, así que es un hecho que nuestros planes ilimitados superan a la competencia. Por lo tanto, no permita que le digan cómo y cuándo usar sus datos y obtenga llamadas, mensajes de texto y datos ilimitados. Vive la verdadera experiencia de planes ilimitados con Smart. Es un hecho. Haga el cambio y viva Smart.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangrega, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
Why, Tony?
Boy, Keith, where you going, man?
But actually, because we can need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups from the grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just routed the last batch, must be about like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have anything? What is going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
And we're back.
Yep. And we're just getting our third conversation for this morning started. And we're talking all about hurricane preparedness. Of course, the hurricane season is less than 2 weeks away. And here to join us about this very important topic, we have Terence Woodeye, who is a first aid instructor and logistics officer with the Belize Red Cross. Good morning.
Yeah. And Terence brought the grocery store.
Yep.
Yes, well, not the grocery store, but this is just a basic needs in time of disaster in a shelter, no?
Yeah, exactly. This is not a promotion. If you're
yes, it's not a promotion.
Yeah.
So, of course, hurricane preparedness, very important, very timely topic right now.
Right.
And it's certainly something that families and people need to start thinking about. So when it comes to this topic, in terms of prioritizing, where should we start when we're thinking about getting our plans together for hurricanes?
All right, to start off talking about hurricane, it have changed, and instead of hurricane, we'll say disaster preparedness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because during a hurricane, you could have other disaster as well.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a breakout of a wildfire, a pandemic like right now with the COVID. So what I'd say is that one of the first thing we need to plan. With everything, we have to always plan. And the time to plan is when there's a calm. Mm-hmm. You don't want to plan just before the disaster or just before the hurricane season. You want to plan when your mind is at ease. And we have the family emergency plan here. This plan, you sit with the family, father, mother, all the kids, and each person in the household would have something to do during the disaster. It's a very detailed plan. Without going through it right now because it's very detailed.
I know.
Who's
Can I show it for a moment?
Sure.
Yes.
I am a. Oh,
Oh, he has one. Yeah, he has one.
I want to say it because it is such an important tool. If you have not seen this book, I definitely you get it at the office, right?
Yeah, they can go to the Red Cross and get it. We have it in both English and Spanish.
Yeah. If you've never made a hurricane plan before, this is exactly what will help you because it goes line by line, assigning responsibility, including the kids.
Yes.
Things like meeting points, which we
Right.
never think about. If there's a earthquake, tsunami, sudden, disaster that happens, where are you going to meet your family if you're all displaced?
Exactly. Sometimes, kids are at school and there's an earthquake. The parents might be at work. Someone might be traveling on the highway. So we need to put the meeting point at a certain time where each family member will meet.
Yeah.
It's very important.
So we talk about it every year, but this is such a great tool that you guys have come up with, and we do hope that people take advantage of it. But Terrence, we are just about 2 weeks away from the start of the hurricane season, less actually. And the Red Cross is all about preparedness.
Preparedness.
And we have seen the last minute scramble every time there's the threat of a
That's
storm.
true. That's true.
But we do hope that year by year we get more people being prepared. Today we gave you a task.
Yes.
We asked you to put together a 3-day package. If you're going to the shelter, what can you take, what should you take, and what maybe you can start putting aside for from now in the event we come under the threat. So you guide us through this process.
Okay, so what you want to take to the shelter is food that is, or meals that are ready to eat.
Yes.
You won't go there thinking that they might have a stove there, so a lot of canned food definitely. Of course, we have Belize staple, the ramen. However, it is recommended because the ramen on its own is just a soup, but if you have veggies, you want to cut up veggies and add to it.
Okay.
That will give it that flavor and more nutrients to it.
And
So you have
that's
the ramen.
if you have access to hot water.
That's the next thing, if you have
Yeah.
access to hot water.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
So we have here, we have the Happy Cow portion cheese, accessible, very easy access. And we also have this soda biscuit right here.
Yeah.
Now these soda biscuit, before they used to come with one pack in a pack, the whole thing, when you open it, you have to eat everything, but this is individual wrap.
Okay.
So what you can do, you can open it and you don't have to leave everything open. You can open it individual and use the cheese on it.
Yeah.
You can also use the jam. It's multi-purpose chicken sausage. You could eat this with anything.
Sardine. Yeah.
Sardines.
What you're planning for, what I see here is like trying to get different food groups included. Because I would never imagine what to pack in terms of canned food, but I see so many different options here.
We have beans in can. And if you notice, all of the cans, they're easy access. They have the lid popped up.
Ah, because who has time to find an opener?
True.
It's recommended also to carry a can opener, a manual can opener, but no, all the cans are easy access. We do have the beans in the plastic as well.
Yeah.
This is ready to go. Right, and your canned food. We have a cereal as well. And also water. You can't forget the water. Per person, it should be like 4 liters. 4 liters of water or 1 gallon per person. That is for consuming and for sanitizing.
I see fruits as well.
Yes, yes. You know, it's difficult during a disaster to get fresh fruits. So this is just for the time being. This is fruit cocktail. It's a variety of fruit, different flavor. And kids love this. Kids love this. Adults love it as well.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I never thought of canned fruit in the hurricane package. Okay.
We have the luncheon meat, milk.
Canned milk, yeah.
So these are just basic stuff. The chicken sausage, potted meat. These are just some basic
and
stuff.
And you don't forget
take.
that Mary Sharp.
Yes. Well, you know, all Belizean home have the Mary Sharp.
Yes.
So you want to take it if you have one available. And then we have here assorted teas.
Okay.
Assorted teas. If grandma is at the shelter or grandparent or even kids love teas, have assorted flavors.
Okay. So these are all things that you would, I mean, I'm trying to estimate in price. This is probably about what cost?
I would say...
Maybe, it's less than 100.
Yeah, less than 100.
It's maybe like...
Maybe...
40, 50?
I would say 50, 59, 60.
Yeah.
59, 60.
Okay, so let's say...
Of course, the price of goods are very high right now, so
That's
about
true.
$60, yeah.
That's true. And it depends on the brand of
On the
stuff
brand,
that you
yeah.
buy as well. So you could always buy a more affordable brand.
Right.
But this alone here, how long would this feed? How many people?
This right here would feel like maybe a family of 3.
Okay.
Not a big family, a family of 3. I'd say maybe 2 to 3 days.
So this is an investment of maybe about $60 that people can start to put aside from now, pack in a backpack, and just leave it there for the hurricane season.
If you notice what I brought this morning, I have this is the container. that I have it in.
Oh, that's what you pack
Yeah.
it. Smart.
No, this is like a all-around use because it protects the food from rodent and insects. Also, you could use it at the shelter for a chair,
Okay.
right? And it's a floating device as well.
Okay.
Once it's sealed
It's
up.
just a regular bucket.
Just a regular pigtail bucket.
Okay.
Just a regular pigtail bucket. It's durable. If you would have put this stuff in a backpack, maybe the handle might, if it's not a strong backpack. Canned stuff are heavy.
Okay.
Canned stuff are heavy. You can either get a bigger container depending on your family size as well.
Yeah. So, so this is what we're talking about here. Just being able to put all your supplies in here, and you pack them in. Oh, you even have the little snacks that's over
Yes, for the kids.
Because if you have children, especially when they're at the shelter, they're going to want snacks.
Definitely.
So just the little nuts that you have, some cookies as well.
Right.
And you know, we've been talking a lot about food, but I also see a first aid kit there, which is you know, extremely important.
Each family should make their own first aid kit. We are actually out of stock right now. We had some, but it's out of stock. But you can Google the contents and make your kit. It's good to keep this handy in the household, where each family member know where it is and how to access it. You might have the kit in the house, and for some reason you have used it on someone who had a cut and forget to replace the gloves. When they go, there's no gloves there, so you need to update it on a regular basis.
Okay. And what does that usually have? What will be some of the basics?
Scissors, triangular bandages, band-aids, gauzes, and stuff like that. I'll just open it.
Now, what's the one thing?
I just add some masks because of pandemic.
You're right.
And also some gloves.
Yeah.
I just added those.
So you used to have these available at the Red Cross?
Yes. We're in the process of preparing some kits right now. I also have a tweezer in there. Has a thermometer. Now, these are triangle bandages, and you can make these homemade. You can buy the cotton cloth and just fold it up, cut it in a shape of a triangle.
Why a triangle?
Because it's a multi-purpose bandage. You could use it as a sling or to cover a cut wound. Right? Triangle bandage. Of course, you want to make it bigger than this.
Yeah.
So they sell these at the drugstore, the triangle bandages. There are two types of bandages. There's triangle bandage and there's the roller bandages. These are the roller bandages.
Yeah. Okay. So try to get some first aid material to take with you, a first aid kit to take with you. If you don't get an actual kit, you can just put together some of the elements that you need.
Yes.
What's the one thing that you find, or what are some of the things that you find people tend to forget when they go into a shelter or when they have to quickly evacuate after a disaster?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Is it things like, I know documents are always one that people think of afterwards.
Yes. Well, here on my left, I have what is called a grab-and-go bag. These bags have everything. It has your hygiene kit, toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoos. I'll just place this right here.
Yeah.
We have more masks. I always want to take a notepad and pen to the shelter as well. Now, don't forget your phone charger and battery or power bank. You want to charge these ahead of time, have them on standby in the event you need to go.
Never thought of that.
Yes. Maybe the shelter might be able to
my battery packs are probably dead at home. Not fully charged.
Because you're likely to have no electricity in the event of...
What about this one? Lighter and matches.
Very important.
Don't forget about that one. Now here we have what is for the kids. We have arts coloring book. We have the crossword puzzle. And we also have a book for story time. It's a story time book.
Okay, and this is what you call in your grab-and-go bag, right?
Yes, in your grab-and-go bag. This,
What else
each
have you
family
fit
should
in
have
there?
each family should make one of this for themselves, each person. Clothing, change of clothing for 2 days. So you have clothing for 2 days.
This is,
And of course, don't
The
forget your important
documents.
documents. Now in this folder, it's a plastic folder. I have my family passports, my insurance document for my vehicle, my account book, bank account, my certificates,
okay.
also land documents, and whatever important documents you want to keep in here.
Yeah.
Important documents.
Definitely the passports.
Yes.
That's something you want to consider. Insurance stuff too.
Also, what you want to do is in little Ziploc bags, you want to have some cash in smaller notes, individual mark like $5, $10, $20. You want to separate that as well.
I'm just looking through this plan, and of course it is very detailed.
Medication,
Of course.
Medication. You have the regular flu tablet, you have Pepto-Bismol, you have vitamins. So you want to have your medication as well.
And especially if you're on prescription meds, you have to make sure to
keep those
a supply of those on standby.
Definitely. Alcohol wipes.
Do you have a radio?
Oh, yes,
I
there's
was
radio there.
okay. I thought I was going a little bit. I heard people talking.
Just get one.
So you have an emergency radio.
Yes, emergency radio to listen to the notes or reports or whatever. And this is a hand crank radio.
Yes,
Hand
with
crank.
a light.
With a light.
Yeah.
With a light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's see what else. There's a lot of stuff coming out from this
I
bag.
know, it's like Mary Poppins.
Never finished. Of course, you can't forget your toilet paper. Definitely.
Okay.
You have to take
That's
your own toilet
something
paper.
I think people would forget.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, probably they'll forget that one. What about extra batteries?
Yeah, that's
extra batteries. And of course, don't forget your flashlight.
I'm just amazed
Yes.
at all that you have fit in there.
This bag.
So Terrence, you know, when people have done emergency training, as you have had, and with the experience that the Red Cross as an agency has had responding to disasters, you understand why all this is necessary.
Yes.
But how do you get other people like us who've never had to just get up and get out of our house immediately? How do you get us to buy into putting together something like this?
Well, we usually have trainings in the communities, and we have trained community members from the Toledo district, the Corozal district, in some of the remote communities, and they are called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. So in the event of a disaster, it could be any disaster, I'm talking about fire, flooding, hurricane, earthquake, whatever the disaster might be, NEMO or the Red Cross might take a while to reach in their community. So these are trained responders that have taken a first aid training, have taken a disaster management training, a fire safety training, several trainings to build their capacity. They would be the one to respond first, and then they will relay the message to us, and then we'll go in.
Yeah.
What we insist on people to get updated on a yearly basis, because for 1 year they might forget the training.
Yeah.
We try to keep in contact with the communities, keep that communication to update they all have a community emergency plan. And we do have our colleagues from Red Cross that work with them to help them update that plan as well.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, to get people to buy into the hurricane season or disasters, you know, we live in a tropical country. Disaster will always be here.
Yeah.
So just to constantly telling people, you know what, we need to be prepared, and we don't want to get prepared just before the season.
Yeah.
You should prepare just after your last disaster. Yeah. It's fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
A couple of these things might be expensive, and if you have a big family especially.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is start to put that money aside one time. Yeah. Don't wait until the hurricane season to go and buy everything. You start every time you get, well, right now we know a lot of people is out of jobs, but you want to put your little money aside little by little, and then you could buy your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate, you breaking down what 3 days of supply for a family of 3 looks like. It makes it so much easier to plan ahead. And remembering things like sweeter snacks for the children
exactly.
or for us, because we all have a sweet tooth.
Yes.
It really does put it into perspective.
Even just balancing out the food groups, I think, is
Right.
super important.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you go to shop, do your shopping for your family, you from that same groceries, you put aside something every time you go and shop, so you won't be last minute, you have to go and spend $150.
Yes.
So every time you shop, if it's once a month, every 2 weeks, every 2 months, you make sure you buy enough stuff that you could put aside maybe 1 or 2 items. And you mark that in your area, disaster or emergency supplies. So no one should touch that. I know as Belizeans sometimes there's emergency right in the family and we might want to take something out.
The emergency is I'm hungry and I want it.
Exactly. So we need to remember to replace it, right?
Yeah.
Because that should not be touched.
I'm 100% guilty of doing last minute shopping before a disaster. And I have to, this today has been eye-opening because you always end up in the aisles thinking, well, what should I pack? And you do all beans, you do proteins, but simple things like the condiments, the jam and the cheese whiz and the fruit cocktail.
And the beans, Belizeans love beans. This is ready to go.
Yeah.
You could put this on a cracker, on sodas, whatever, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And then you also have to think that, closer to the time of a disaster, everybody's going to go out then.
That's the next thing.
So that, what the things that you might want may not even be available.
Yeah.
Now, talking about that, I have been deployed on several missions outside of Belize, Hurricane Maria, the earthquake in Haiti. The last one was Hurricane Maria 2 years ago. And when I went there to work, I had to take food for the whole month because everything was closed. There weren't any food on the farms, so I took my food in a suitcase for the whole month. When the stores started open like 2 months after, lines. And they would limit you. You might take out 3 items from the store. You can't just go and buy everything you want. So yes, when it comes to food, you have to be...
So you've seen it firsthand?
Yes, I've seen it firsthand. Firsthand. Yeah.
So when you have a good enough stock and you're prepared, you won't have to be in those lines.
Right. And this comes with planning. And that's why we have the family emergency plan. You want to make sure you fill this out before the disaster and update it because things might change.
Yeah.
Things might change, but you want to fill it out, update it, and have it in your grab-and-go bag where everyone can see it. And just before the disaster, remind people what are their responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's very easy to fill out.
All right, Terrence, this has been an eye-opening experience, at least for me.
Yep, absolutely.
In kind of understanding, I don't see one of the things, alcohol is also good too. Not to drink, the cleaning one.
Yes, sanitizing, alcohol.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't bring the liquid, but I brought the wipes, alcohol wipes. We have it right here.
Yeah.
Talking about alcohol, I'm a first aid instructor, and instructor trainer, but we have been seeing that we use alcohol in Belize a lot, especially for fainting. Fainting. What alcohol does, it goes to the nerves and bring back the person. However, we have been doing this traditional because of our grandparent did it, but it's not healthy to use alcohol for fainting.
Oh, wow.
When the body collapses, there's a reason: lack of oxygen or blood flow to the brain. Maybe the person didn't have breakfast. So when the body collapses, the body needs some time to regroup and rest. As Belizeans, when you put the alcohol, the person comes back very quick, but we can do more harm than good because you bring back the body too quick, you don't give it a time to rest. You should never use alcohol for someone who faints.
Wow.
A lot of people, it's a custom in Belize.
Sounds like we have to bring it back
alcohol
for
and Vicks. We talk about Vicks. That's the next. I won't go into the Vicks.
Well, Vicks is miracle working for some people you talk to.
Right.
I won't say anything because my mom will get upset.
Yes, I know.
But Terrence, that does sound like something that we have to discuss even further, talking about some of the first aid tips that we need to know at home.
Yes, definitely. Could come back and do a first aid segment on it. Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. For just about $50 to $60, we did a 3-day survival kit with food for a family of 3. And all they're saying is put it together, put it in a safe place, something that is waterproof, and put it to the side and don't touch it, and you're ready to go when there is the threat of a storm. Thank you so much, Terrence.
Thank you too.
Okay. And with that, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up, so please stay tuned.
2020 taught us the importance of being connected to the virtual world, and NextGen is here to keep its commitment to you. Even if you're physically apart, NextGen keeps you digitally connected.
Okay everyone, thank you for following me today.
NextGen provides more than just an internet plan. They provide service plans that support all your online needs. Sign up today and get your NextGen's ultra high-speed internet service. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Hello Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
Back.
And we are just getting our show wrapped up after a bunch of great conversations this morning. We want to say thank you to all our guests. First of all, Honorable Francis Fonseca, Minister of Education, Science, Culture and Technology, coming to give us an update on the status of the negotiations with the unions as well as the phased in reintroduction of face-to-face learning in schools.
That's right. And we want to thank Nurse Middleton for helping us understand the level of protection that we have even when we've been vaccinated. Do remember that you still have to keep the protocols in place. If you've had your first vaccine, you're not fully protected as yet. And even after your second vaccine, there's a certain amount of time that you have to wait before it becomes fully effective. So take all those considerations in mind as we continue to try to reduce the spread of COVID-19. And then a big thank you to Terrence this morning from the Belize Red Cross.
Yep, talking all about hurricane preparedness, or disaster preparedness, I should say, even though we are only 2 weeks away from the hurricane season. So it's a very timely reminder that we need to do everything we can to be prepared in the event of a natural disaster. And that goes from having all of your supplies, from food to first aid, as well as all of your important documents. There's a whole range of items that we discussed that would be necessary. So thanks to the Belize Red Cross for that reminder, and we want to remind you to take the steps to keep you and your family safe as well. But that is just about all the time we have for today. So if you want to contact us, you can send us an email at oie@channel5belize.com. You can find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OIE Belize.
All right, and remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.